Guys, I just realized I had not made you a week 8 video for this week. So here we are in week 8, um, and let's go look at our marching orders here. This week, if you went in and looked at the overview, you noticed that one of the big things that we're doing, the big thing, we're starting a new module, and this module is on digital identity. And we're working on curating a solid digital identity, and or at least thinking about it, and also practicing creating your own digital brand. And by brand, I mean yourself as a product, right? And some of you may be seniors, and this is just a sync you're coming back and picking up, and to finish out your general education requirements. And so you may be going into the job market very soon. You may be already interviewing. And part of getting ready for that process is looking at your digital identity and your digital brand of yourself. What are you selling to people? We'll be talking about that in this module and thinking about how you represent yourself online because it's gotten more and more important in terms of getting jobs and keeping jobs. Yeah, and so we're going to do a couple of things. One is to begin to build an e-portfolio. And this is a small e-portfolio. Those of you who had freshman inquiry and did an entire e-portfolio on all 4 of our university studies goals, we're not doing anything like that. We're going to take a look at one goal, and you get to choose which one you want to do. And we're going to think about creating a professional welcome page, just practicing that skill of presenting yourself to possible employers, right? And yeah, that'll be a fun thing to talk about, right? Yourself, who you want, how you want people to see you, how you want people to interpret you. Many people believe that social media is, like Facebook is a great example of this, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you want to name. Many people believe that those iterations, those things that they put online and, whatever they put out there in the world is private if they have their privacy settings set correctly, and that is not the case. We know that companies can and will. They have experts that go. It's kind of like a background check. They're going to go looking through here to see what they can find out about you, and these things may not be as private as you think. So that's one thing to think about. So when you're presenting yourself online, what sort of digital footprint are you leaving? And what can be found out about you. And that's sort of what we're addressing in this unit. And it, in a way, sort of overlaps with the social media um, module that we have in the course, in a way. So anyway, that's what we're doing in this module. We're also starting to move towards the end of the term, obviously, it's week 8. And so in the reminders here, I have a lot of writing about your draft of your final proposal, your final project. Those are due June 6th, as you can see, June 6th. And there is no leeway on that because your colleagues, your fellow peers, other students in the class have other things to do besides wait for you to give them something to peer review. And you're graded on what you are peer reviewing. So it is a graded component of the course, the peer review. And so you're going to be graded on the peer review letters that you write for other people. And therefore you can see that the class is set up so that you have to engage. And if you are not producing a peer-reviewed draft for your peers, then that is really unfortunate, right? That's not fair to them. Yeah. And so what should be in the draft? I tell you here, basically what you're aiming for is a fully fleshed out draft of whatever project you're doing. So, for example, most of the final projects are longer pieces of work where you're either writing a paper or a long multimedia blog post. So it's longer than anything you've done in the class before. The one exception to that is those of you who chose to do the in the advertising module, the spoof ad. Now, for that, you need an artist statement. You also need to use sources, though. So you have to think about, how you're going to do that. And that's not as many words. So the most of the final projects are between 1,000 and 12,000 words. The spoof ad artist statement is 500 or more words. So that's substantially less. But you do need to make it really clear what it is you're trying to do and, what's informing your decision to make the spoof ad using some of the sources that you found for your annotated bibliography. And yeah, so I've included some things here for you to get started on that writing, that writing piece. Get ready, start writing. You need to be drafting that now. And what I suggest to all of you, a really good practice is just to set aside a half hour every day and do something. Write some part of it. You don't have to start at the introduction. As a matter of fact, it's often best to write your introduction last because you already know what you've written and then you can properly introduce it. Right? So it's often the best practice to write that last. You can just start where you feel the most engaged or you feel the most confident. So, for example, when you have your annotated bibliography, you have these sources, and you can look at things like the cheeseburger method here for integrating sources, and you can think, okay, how am I going to integrate this source? What is the point that I'm trying to make with this source? So if you've identified quotes from the various sources that you think are really helpful, think about how you're going to integrate those properly into your paper and how you're going to connect them to whatever your overall point is. And you could just do one of those. And if you did 3 different sources, you can see that, you might have a lot of your paper already done. And by the way, one of the reasons I made you do the annotated bibliography is because when you're doing that annotation, you've already begun the writing process for your final project because you're explaining to me how does this source back up whatever your claim or whatever your project is. And so you will already have some language that you could potentially use in your final project. And yeah, you may have to edit it or change it a little bit, but go ahead and go back and look at that assignment. Look what you've written because a lot of you had some really good writing in there. Yeah, and I also attached an excerpt that I really like from one of the books that I told you about earlier, The Curious Researcher, about writing great introductions and conclusions. So many of us in K through 12, so through high school, were taught this really sort of formulaic way of writing, introduction, 3 beefy paragraphs. So it's like a 5-paragraph model or something. And of course, in a college course, you're never writing 5 paragraphs in a full paper. That's ridiculous. But you're going to write more than 5 paragraphs. But and also, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this, but here's another writing tip. A paragraph is always, certainly in MLA style, more than a few sentences. You're developing an idea, so it should be, several hundred words. Usually a good sized paragraph is half a page. And I mention that because a lot of times I'll get final projects where they have one sentence as a paragraph. A sentence is not the same thing as a paragraph. A paragraph has a very specific function, which is a bunch of sentences related to the same topic tied together in a paragraph. So, just be aware of what that looks like in formal writing. Um, okay, so we're off and running. We're moving towards the end. The other thing that I wanted to tell you, if you go into PebblePad and you go to the blue bubble, which is Atlas, this is where you're going to go to download your ePortfolio template. When you click on it, you'll come into this page that looks like this. And you're going to go under Resources. And under Resources, you will see here is the template. And in the template, so we're going to click on Copy and Submit. And we say, yes, we want to do that. Now it automatically went into my assets store. So if I go and look in my assets, it will be right here at the top of my assets. And then when I go in to work on it, you can see, I don't know why that says that. It probably won't say it on yours, but you can see that there's a welcome page. Oop, what's happening here? Whoa. Okay, that's not the way, oops. Okay, I need to fix that, don't I? Let's see here, see if this works. Oh yeah, welcome page, this is the welcome page. Hello. So it says you write a little bit about yourself. What's your major? Why'd you choose PSU? You don't necessarily have to write all these things. Why'd you decide to study popular culture? But keep in mind that you're trying to write about yourself as a thoughtful, professional sort of person that wants to get a job. And here I've put an image box for you to put an image of yourself or an avatar or whatever. Then you have these 4 goals, and each one of them also has writing prompts, so these are the 4 goals of university studies, right? Another thing we're going to do right here at the very end, you see this little click here? You can add something. You can add a new page or an existing asset, and I want to add my blog. Check it out. This is a totally different blog. I don't know what is all happening here. This is from my freshman class. I don't know how this got in here, but that's okay. Anyway, I'm adding that on here. You can see. And so that's what we're going to be doing. And you'll have the instructions and everything on how to do your ePortfolio, other than the writing prompts that are in here. In the second week, next week, week 9, I'm just giving you a little preview, right? So again, how I found that is I went to PebblePad and I went to the blue ball and I found our class, Spring 19, Batchelder, and I went to Resources and there it is, and I copy and submit. Now this is set so that the minute that you copy it, it's also submitted back to the submissions right here. This is where I can see everybody's submissions. I would show it to you, but I have grades in there. And I don't think I can hide them to show you what's in the submission folder, so I won't, so it has names and it has a grade over here, so I won't show you that. But, rest assured, if I go into submissions, it'll be the first thing at the top right now is this template that was downloaded by Leslie Batchelder, right? And yeah. So once you click and submit, in other words, you don't have to save it with me or share it with me because it's already shared automatically. And I set it up that way just to save you time. You can't really do that with the blog. I mean, if I had made a blog template for you, but I wanted you to have the creativity to do it yourself. So I created this template to save you time. I put all the goals in there and stuff to save you time. So that's why I'm able to mark it as copy and submit, and which means that it's automatically submitted to me. So yeah, and the other thing that's in here is just an explanation of what we do with ePortfolios in university studies. Why is it important? What are you learning by doing this? Why do ePortfolios matter? This is really important, especially this first part, 3 great reasons to create an ePortfolio for presenting a professional self online. This is really important when you get towards graduation. And some of you might even be looking for internships or work when you're a junior or a sophomore. So, you can already begin thinking about how do I want to put myself forward in the working world through either an e-portfolio or a my Twitter handle, whatever, through social media. You want most people use LinkedIn. LinkedIn isn't as fun and pretty as this. It's just kind of very standard and basic, and that's good. But there's other mediums you can use, and that's all I'm trying to get you to see is that not only PebblePad, but there's a lot of different things you can do to get your name out there and get a, a sort of standing in the public sphere. Okay, so yeah, that's what we're doing. This week, all we're doing is starting out the discussion of, um, if you go back, you'll see. So we have the overview. We have a couple of things to read and watch, and then you're going to post on your digital identity. And if you go to this post, you will see that there is a writing um, prompt here, and then you write what you think. So that's our work for this week. Next week we'll be doing the e-portfolio, or beginning it. It's part of the final. It's kind of the final for the class. So you're just starting with the welcome page this on week 9, and then there's another part of the assignment that's due as your final. But yeah, in the meantime, right now, today, sit down with your calendar and start mapping out when you're going to be working on your final project, because you don't want to be trying to cram it all in at the last minute. So, do think about that part of it too. The idea that, hey, if I start this week and really start working on my final project, I'm going to have it done by June 6th, like all the way done. Not an outline. Outlines are not acceptable. You have to actually write a significant, hopefully all of it. It's always preferable, the full draft, right? With the works cited, because what your peer is going to do is take a look at it and give you feedback. And yes, the peer review is graded, so you need to, help out your peers by having something to give them, and vice versa, right? Yeah, so think about all these suggestions about writing and make a plan and have at it. And some of you have already started, I know. So that's cool too. Let me know if you have any questions, as always, and I will see you in cyberspace.